Welcome to Navigating the Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians for May 15th, 2020. It's about 1 p.m. Central Time here in Austin, Texas. The Unemployment Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us are contractor 1099 workers, others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
All right. And then next up is our riveting legal disclaimer. The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They should also not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. All right. Now that's the vegetables of the session, I suppose. I wanted to remind everybody about these 5 websites that we keep harping on here. The Texas Workforce Commission Facebook page, which you can find by just searching Texas Workforce Commission. The Local 433 Musicians Unemployment Sharing page on Facebook. And that's us. Our local here is sharing all the relevant Facebook information that's coming out of the Texas Workforce Commission and other places too, local news stations and things like that. The official Texas Workforce Commission website is twc.texas.gov. Don't forget about that. Our local also has a COVID-19 resources page, which is afm433.com/COVID-19. And there's a lot of useful things for all musicians on there as well, but especially for the union musicians, of course, as well. And then the website we talked about a lot last week was Who Represents Me, the Texas version of that, which is wrm.capital.texas.gov. And of course, you have to make sure you spell capital properly for the context, which is CAPITOL for capital of Texas, rather than raising capital for my new business. So there we go, man. Let's see. How's everybody doing this week? What do we got for beverages? I'm doing coffee straight this week. What are y'all doing?
Sweet tea.
Dry.
Lovely. What did you say? Mai Tai, Kaz?
No, I said I'm dry.
Oh, you're dry. Okay. What about you, Tracy? You got anything going there?
We'll say water.
Yep, that's all right. And what about you, Jonathan?
Black coffee.
Black coffee. Excellent. Yep. Right on. All right. Cool. It's important to stay hydrated for this important conversation, you know. We haven't gotten any email questions. I'll check one more time here. No email questions to our official email address, which is ucac@afm433.com if you want to reach us that way. We're taking questions that way, as well as on our Facebook pages for the local and the information sharing page. Let's see, anything in there? Not so far. That's all right, though. Yeah, let me check anyone in the chat room today. Not so far. but that's all right. Yeah. So let's just kind of start with the news of the week here. I think the the most the most new topic there, the most important new topic probably is the TWC announced that it's okay to refuse to go back to work under certain conditions. I don't think this is going to affect musicians a whole lot, but what do you guys think about that? The ability to refuse to go back to work. Uh, what do you think? Anybody refusing to go back to work for anything other
Well, if
than
the environment, if, if the environment is not stable, it's the long-term health care that you'd be stuck with.
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, not just that night, but the ongoing health care. Absolutely.
I think it just underlines the importance of having the union there to negotiate for workplace safety and health.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And of course, that's the case in you know workplaces like organizational workplaces like the symphony, the opera, places like that. But smaller places might not be quite as organized. So we have to really kind of watch out for each other as that goes. Um, but I think the lion's share of our work is probably not going to come back until everybody else feels safe, really getting out there and
Yep.
rubbing up against each other and everything. So yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, the Texas Workforce Commission does have a form. So if you report that you've refused to go back to work, but that you were offered work, because it does ask you that, right? Every week when you request a payment, it doesn't it ask you whether or not you've been offered work? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So in the case that you're not comfortable not reporting that, and you do report that you've been offered work but you refused it, the TWC has a form now on their site, and I don't think anybody knows how long those forms will take to process exactly, but it's there, and it's called the Employee Work Refusal Documentation Form, and there's a link to it right from the self-employed. Well, I'm sorry, not that part, but I think the front page of the TWC website has a link to it now because it's kind of the new thing. So, does anybody have any experience with that? Has anybody used that form at all yet? It's pretty new this week, I believe. But
I haven't used it yet, but I mean, obviously not to advise anything illegal here, but I mean, wouldn't it just be simpler to say that you had not been offered any work?
I think in the case of a freelancer, I think you could make the case that it just wasn't a credible offer. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the case of an employer, though, what do y'all think? If you're an employee and your official employer offered to go, wanted you to go back to work, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's the same. It's twofold. I mean, you accept the position, and you end up with covert, and the incubation period is 14 days. So you go home, and if you have roommates or family, you infect them, and they go out to their community, and they infect other people. It's the purpose of trying to flatten the curve.
Yeah, it defeats that purpose. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to say, Jonathan?
I don't really. I think it's definitely a personal decision. It's I think everyone's going to have a different point of view on this, but my opinion is that we're not ready to restart in general right now, and I think everyone's kind of taking it slowly and looking at it as the weeks go by, because things seem to change
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah, and our business depends so much on the audience being willing to get out there, and I think they're clearly not there yet, of course. Yeah, but yeah, your personal choice has got to be, has to do with the people you live with and everything else. So it's going to be very individualized for sure. Yeah, cool. All right. Well,
And
let's
your
move.
ability to be insured.
What was that, Russell?
I said also it's your ability to be insured
Oh,
because most of us that are freelance have to buy insurance. And if you catch the covert virus once, now.
mm-hmm.
So theoretically, you could be turned down. You could be asked to leave the hospital.
Right,
That's how people are dying from that kind of stuff in New York.
right. Yeah, and of course, even if you're an employee rather than a contractor, you may not have health insurance through your employer. You may have to buy it yourself.
Right.
And yeah, we're all in a sticky situation with that whole thing, that whole
I
healthcare issue.
mean, it's a grim reality. The thing for musicians as, meat packers or people who work in nursing homes or something. I mean, if you're offered work or your employer wants you to come back to work and you don't, aren't you facing losing your job? Whether you're a musician or whether you're a meat packer or whether you're working in a car manufacturing plant or whatever, right? Restaurant, aren't you facing losing your job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could be, and that's I think why they've set up this forum to try to mediate that because that's going to be a
Well,
concern.
is that occurring in other states as well as Texas? Do we know?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've heard about people being concerned about that, but I haven't heard what they're actually doing about it. Has anybody heard anything about that? Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Well, being up from New York, there's a big push to push people off of those unemployment rolls, and they're getting away with it legally because they're saying, "Well, the work's out there. You just don't want to do it."
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't come to Texas yet, but there are other states that are actually doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely more of a concern for those jobs that will be able to go back quicker than we will. That's one blessing that we have in the entertainment industry is that we won't go back. But of course, the problem with that is that we won't have to go back for a while, and we won't be making any money either. So that's the downside.
Right.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's check some more of this out. The TWC also announced that the veterans can submit their DD 214 online now, and apparently that was something that had to be on paper before. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Does anybody know what a DD 214 is?
Got one.
Yeah, you got one.
It's your discharge paper,
Oh, okay.
and it says whether you were honorably or dishonorably discharged. I mean, it's several of them because I keep so I don't lose them. But yeah, it's your basically your discharge paper, and it says you were there.
Okay, so sort of like a proof of service kind of thing almost.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So that might be relevant to getting unemployment assistance or documenting a
Oh
previous
yeah, because
year.
there are certain breaks that you skip to the front of the line for by having a DD 214.
Oh, okay. So that could be really useful for the musicians that are veterans then. Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. Well, we'd love to hear from anybody that is having success with that concept of getting to the front of the line. That'd be great. Yeah. Let's see. The other thing that's on the Facebook, the unemployment sharing page that the local has is some info about the national efforts of the AFM in sort of pushing the federal government to act again. And of course, we're seeing that this week with the what's it called, the Heroes Act, I think is gone through the House of Representatives, but it's stuck in the Senate. That does have some additional provisions for freelancers in the entertainment business. AFM's working on that. IATSE, the stagehands union's working on that. Um, all the other entertainment unions, Actors Equity, SAG-AFTRA, everybody's working on that together because we're all kind of similar in that our income is not standard for sure. So yeah, right on. Let's see what else. I wanted to check in about there was some more news about submitting your proof of income for being a contractor. Has any of you guys had any success with submitting proof of income, like your tax documents from the previous year? They had a fax number, I think, originally, and you could mail it, but now I think they're only taking it by email. Is that right?
I don't know what the current status of that is. I mailed mine in
Okay.
probably, I'm guessing, almost 3 weeks ago now, and I haven't heard a word back, whether they got it, no acknowledgement that they got it, that they saw it, that they applied it to my file or anything like that. I don't know anything about it.
But your payments have started though.
Oh yeah,
Is that
yeah.
right?
I've been
That's good.
getting it for weeks, and I'm supposed to do another payment request coming up this Sunday. But the only thing I can say to that is that I did talk to somebody a couple of weeks ago who said they were way behind on dealing with the submissions of documents.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially the paper documents. But that's how they were recommending that you send them 3 weeks ago, and now they've
Yeah.
changed. So yeah, but that's the thing where they look at those documents to see if they can increase your PUA allotment. I believe that's what that's for. Yeah. So yeah, Tracy, have you had any success with sending in documents for that type of thing?
Well, I've had people from the tax office of TWC call me regarding my 1099s. And speaking with them, they'll also email me and I'll scan my 1099 specifically to them. And within a week of my first 1099 being scanned and emailed, I saw an increase in my benefits. So I think if you can speak with someone directly, that's the way to go.
Yeah, that's different because I've seen information where they say not to send your 1099s, but this you're talking about the tax department of the
It's the tax
TWC.
department.
Yeah,
Correct.
so they must have had specific questions about your 1099s, and then Kaz, you're not talking about 1099s, you're talking about 1040. Is that right?
Well, I sent in my 1040, my Schedule C, 2 or 3 copies of 1099s that I had received in 2019, and some other supporting documents to show that, I had my own business, that I was doing business as. I sent all those things in.
Yeah. And then what about you, Jonathan? Did you have to send any documents in, or were those kind of handled by the employers for your W-2s?
Yeah, that was all handled by my employers. I was very fortunate that it's my income is mostly W-2 income, and they verify the employment with my employer every time I make a payment request. So it's basically it's set up for my situation already.
That's great. Do you have any W-2 employers? Like I have one of my W-2 employers it's such a small amount that it hasn't shown up yet on the TWC, and I don't know if that's because they haven't gotten a hold of them to check it yet or what. But did that happen with any of your W-2 employers?
No, actually, when I first applied for unemployment assistance several years ago, or a year, 2 years ago almost. They also required a W-2 from someone who I had taken one gig with the year before, and I hadn't gigged with since, and still haven't. But it still shows up as part of my income, one of my sources of income. So I had the opposite experience.
Cool.
They had all that in there for me.
Right on. Yeah. Well, can we, Tracy? Would you mind updating us this week about like what's happened since you got a hold of the senator's office?
Well, it's my story and it's a bit confusing, and I'm still confused by it a little.
That's okay.
After speaking with the senator's office, she set me up with someone who called me from TWC. I spoke with him directly, and I gave him my 1099 information over the phone, just monetarily how much I had made. And he started a claim on those, and he said that was going to bump up my my maximum benefits for the year. Then I spoke with somebody else at TWC, and they said that legally the state of Texas is only allowed to pay W-2s first, your benefit amount for W-2s first. And until that's exhausted, then PUA will kick in, and your 1099 is where your unemployment benefits will come from. A couple days later, I received correspondence from TWC where they added my 1099s with my W-2s, and it bumped up my benefits. So I honestly am not sure which is accurate. But that's the update I have so far, and I'm still waiting for one more call about another 1099.
One question, Tracy. Were you submitting 1099s for 2019 or for 2020?
2019.
That's confusing to me, because I was told that what they were basing their judgment on was not your gross income, but your net income. So in other words, you could submit as many 1099s as you wanted, but what they wanted to see was how that all got processed in your taxes through your Schedule C to see what your bottom line net income was after all your deductions and everything.
So what happened when the tax person from TWC called me? She asked the amount that I received in 2019 for specific 1099s, and then they divided those quarterly for the past year, and that was added to my W-2 income. So 2020, of course, we've just started, so I couldn't really calculate anything, but I have turned in my taxes for 2019, so that's been taken care of, and they can have access to that. But yeah, I'm as confused as you are.
Wow, that's strange. Because I was told pretty specifically that it was your net income that they were judging whether or not they would increase your payment benefit, your unemployment benefit.
Well, I think when I first applied, they only considered my W-2s, but now they're adding in my 1099s as well on top of those. And they've only actually added in one 1099. I'm still waiting for a phone call from another tax person for my other 1099. So we'll see what happens.
And of course, several weeks ago, we did hear that they were not going to do that from some employees at the TWC. We heard that they would not combine W-2 and 1099 income. But now it seems to have been updated, which is great because people need help, and we don't need to be excluded from this thing any more than we already are, I suppose. Yeah. We do have a comment from Teddy in the chat room. Teddy was with us last week. Hello, Teddy. And he said, following up, I contacted Crystal Kyle using the email you offered here. That's the I believe she's the attorney for Judith Zaccarini's office, the state senator. And Teddy says she called me back within 3 hours and helped clear up my issues and questions about qualifying with W-2 over 1099. Thank you. I guess Teddy, I'd ask if you could clarify. Do you mean qualifying with your W-2 and your 1099, or qualifying with your W-2 first and then moving on to 1099 income after your benefits are used up on the W-2 work? It seems to be we're just getting lots of different information on that, and yeah, what do the rest of y'all think about that?
I actually spoke with Teddy last week as well, and we were given the same information from one person at TWC that legally the state of Texas has to deplete your W-2 benefit for the year before they can include 1099s. And that was the information both of us were given. And then a few days later, I received correspondence from TWC where they had added in my 1099 information on top of my W-2s. So I'm not sure if that's something that switched during the week with TWC, or I'm hoping it's, all in the clear. But I would advise Teddy to contact the same people again just to make sure.
Yeah, and I think we all of us will have to just stay on this as it develops. I think it may be have something to do with the relative levels like we were talking about earlier. If your W-2 income is less than half of your total income or something like that. Maybe they're making that adjustment, but if your W-2 income is greater than your 1099 income, maybe they're doing it the other way. And maybe that's better because the benefits last longer if you do all your W-2 income and then move on to your 1099 income. Because we don't know how long these programs are going to currently last, right? The current pandemic assistance is supposed to run out in July. Is that right?
That's what I've heard.
Right. Well, the added $600 will run out at the end of July. But unemployment should last 26 weeks in a normal year, and I believe the Congress added 13 weeks to that.
I think that's right.
So it should be 39 weeks. So I don't know how that squares with continuing benefits after they run out. I guess I don't know how that works, but in my mind, after 39 weeks, you have to wait until the end of the year to reapply, or until a year from your initial application, rather. Then you can reapply.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, but this all, of course, hinges on whether or not the what's it called, the HEROES Act, the new stimulus, when that gets through, and how much assistance is left before it gets through the Senate. So we'll see.
Now, the 13 weeks, though, I believe that was added in the CARES Act.
Yeah, I believe so.
Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, that's already there.
Yeah, that's long.
Yeah, there is a provision, I believe, in the new legislation that's not through yet, that will extend the $600 past July, which I think needs to happen. Our profession is certainly not going to go back before July. So, yeah. Let's see. We got a response from Teddy. Says, yeah. Teddy says that they'll exhaust his W-2 benefits before his 1099 kicks in. And then he says, with that new information, sounds like I need to follow up. And that's probably a good idea, just to see. But I guess we could go over that again. The information to check with your state senator, especially if you seem to be at a roadblock in the way that Teddy and Tracy were. That can be a way to cut through some of the red tape. It probably shouldn't work like that, but it seems to be working that way. Kaz, I remember you said you got some good information from Lloyd Doggett's office, the our House of Representatives representative.
I did. That was actually very early on in my application process, and he kind of kept me. His office kept me updated there at the beginning of the process, especially concerning when the TWC was switching over to allow self-employed and independent contract work applications.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the case now for quite a while. So I haven't been receiving other information from his office.
Okay. We've been the union office is been getting some communiques from his office, and of course he's part of that new Heroes Act that hopefully will get through and continue some of these benefits. But of course, we got to get all our people on the benefits first before we can even worry about the continuance. But those of us who are on there need to worry about the continuance, I guess, as well. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on here. I've got some more stuff. Oh, okay. What do you guys? What have you seen? What kind of work have you seen musicians being able to do recently?
I saw pictures from a gig in Atlanta. Actually, it was an orchestral gig at a church, I believe, on Mother's Day, and they had attempted to do some social distancing. They were placing the chairs. They definitely weren't 6 feet apart, so it wasn't really super successful social distancing.
Do,
But
do you mean the chairs for the musicians or the chairs for the audience?
there was no audience, but it was a full orchestra on stage at a church in Atlanta. And I believe from a colleague of mine in Atlanta, I believe they had to sign a waiver. And
Wow.
enough people were willing to do it that they were able to fill out an orchestra, but I don't know if I would accept that job right now.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. What if there's work offered? And that's not safe.
No.
But if you turn it down, then they say, well, we're offering you work, you didn't take it.
Yeah. No, that's kind of terrifying. Absolutely, man. And of course we received recommendations from the Regional Orchestra Players Association this week to not sign any waivers, right?
Mhm.
And I think
Right.
that's good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Anything that an employer thinks that they need a waiver for your safety for, they probably just shouldn't do. I think is probably yeah.
Well, it's an attempt to void your union contract.
Yep.
Because if they get you to sign a waiver, I mean, then that circumvents your contract and puts the onus on you being responsible for your health or whatever happens.
Yeah, and they can pretty much do whatever they want with their working conditions after that. So yeah, wow, that's dark, man. Yeah.
There were a lot of union musicians taking that job, though.
Yeah, and we can't blame them. I mean, that's everybody needs work right now, and it is, yeah. And I think that's probably the wrong way to do it, but yeah, God bless them. I hope they're okay. Yeah, and that was on Mother's Day, so that was last Sunday, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah. Anybody hearing about any other work that's going on? I know Russell got offered the party gig, but no go on that.
Yeah. No go.
Yep. No on. Yep. I've turned down a couple things. I have heard about some folks doing like singing telegram type work where it's a solo musician, and you go and you play 12 feet in front of somebody's house. I don't think that can work though in a condo or an apartment building type of thing. I mean, the hallway wouldn't be big enough to do that properly. Maybe you could do it outside of a balcony if you could figure out which balcony it is. I guess that might work. But we do have some folks, some musicians doing that type of work, booking that type of thing. gosh, not to get too dark again, but we have had members booking work at at funerals, and that's kind of a odd thing to contemplate, but it is a work issue for us. People do have music at their funerals. I don't think the New
Played plenty of
Orleans.
them.
What'd you say, Russell?
I said I've played plenty of them here in Austin.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think the New Orleans second line thing is going to be doable, but certainly, a solo musician or maybe a small group that doesn't move around, might work. But you'd have to make sure you do it right and make sure everybody's comfortable with the situation and everything's clean. I think there's a limit on the size of the groups for that type of thing, as well as marriages and church services and everything else still. But that could be a thing. There we do have some bagpipe players in the local that are doing some funerals. So yeah. What else? You guys heard of any work happening? What about teaching?
I still have my teaching job, and it's been thriving. But I've always taught online, so it wasn't necessary for me to shift anything over. And of course, I have my remote studio, and I still get work there.
Did you always teach all online, Russell, or was it half? Some.
Well, I taught my out-of-state students and out of the country students. But my work here with the school in Pflugerville, once they shut that down, we all just met online. So I didn't lose anything.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful, man. What about the rest of y'all? Any success with teaching online?
Yeah, I've switched my studio online. I've lost a few students, but I've also got a couple of new students, so it's
Right.
starting to even out a little bit.
I think
Trying all the different platforms, and I've had the most success with Skype personally, but I don't know if that's the case. Everyone's got their own preferences.
Oh yeah, you mind talking about that? Why is that?
I really don't know. I just think it's not great, but the sound tends to be a better bit than Google Duo, and it's more accessible than Zoom. And I've found the sound to be a little better than Zoom. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, their latency issues is better too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because I've been able to play in real time with a student with very little lag time.
Wow.
Oh.
I've not
That was
heard
on
that.
Skype.
On Skype,
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. What do you mean, Jonathan, about accessibility? You just mean the.
Well, I haven't had to pay for the professional or the full edition of Zoom. I have had a couple of half lessons on Zoom because it cuts out after 40 minutes. But even though the sound hasn't been as good as Skype. So.
Cool. That's good to know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, early on we were hearing that Zoom had some adjustments you could make to the sound, but they've changed it and updated it, and some of them are hidden and some of them aren't there anymore. And yeah.
The original sound option, I haven't been successful with it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to, but I don't have a professional mic that I use, and my students don't either. So
yeah. And the students probably aren't going to, right? Yeah.
They're hoping to get back to in-person lessons. I think we all are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But in the meantime, this is okay.
Yeah. And certainly better than nothing. It's only our option, or it's our only option. It's the only option for the students to have that kind of activity.
Right.
So yeah, I've been really just trying to discourage people from lowering their rates because of the online lessons, because that's the only option for all the students. So yeah, probably please don't lower your rates. Yeah.
So I should raise them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, yeah.
You got to afford that microphone somehow, right? What about Kaz and Tracy? Have you had any success with teaching online at all, or mostly staying out of it?
I've been staying out of it, but I do know a couple of friends of mine who are teaching online fairly extensively and being fairly successful at it. So I think people, when I retired from my teaching job, I kind of didn't want to do a lot more teaching, and so I kind of stayed away from that. But I think people who had kind of, a big number of students have been able to maintain a lot of them doing online teaching, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Tracy? Any experiences with that?
No, I'm the same as Kaz. I've kind of not taught just due to my schedule. So I haven't had the experience of online.
Oh, no worries at all. Yeah. Yeah, and that's Kaz, I completely understand you wanting to stay out of it now that you've retired from it. God bless you. Yeah, man, very cool. All right, let's keep going. What about other kinds of work? What other kinds of work are musicians able to do in music? I'm not talking about outside of the field, but
You're not
other.
talking about yard work?
What's that?
Not talking about yard work?
Right. Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that. Yeah. Definitely getting a lot more offers to have my grass mown recently. Yeah, from musicians, and that's one way to do it. We're supplementing as we always do. I mean, musicians, we kill ourselves to stay in this field, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about reactivating my Uber driver account.
Oh, God
But
bless you.
not yet, though. Not yet. I don't think there's a lot of driving to be done, to be honest. There's only maybe deliveries,
Yeah, I have seen the delivery thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, man. What about recording work? Anybody doing any recording work at home for clients or otherwise?
I still have work there.
You get a little bit there.
And a matter of fact, when we're through here, I got to go back and do some more. So
Hey, there you go.
yeah, but it's one of those things where I've been kind of cultivating this for a while. So
Mm-hmm.
this didn't change me. I mean, some of them are just demos. Very few were masters that are actually going to go to production.
Mm-hmm.
But the work is there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's, gosh, I've been meaning to bring it up. There's a really good video from Dave Pomeroy, who's the president of the Nashville Union, that he made about the single song overdub agreement that the AFM has, and it has a method that's attached to it for doing those online recording sessions in a way that you make sure you get paid. And yeah. So yeah, I'll see if I can link that to the video. But yeah, but that's something. Yeah, it's a little difficult to start now cultivating that type of network. But it sounds like you've been doing it for a while, Russell. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on here.
And that's just how it worked.
Yeah, that's right. It's a networking business. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to ask you guys is, what advice do you have for someone starting on applying for unemployment benefits now? Now that it's evolved to this point, and we've had all these changes, what would you advise someone just dipping their toe into it right now? Like they've been okay, but now it's getting to the point where we're not okay. Like we're staring down the barrel of this massive shortage of work that's going to keep going. What advice would you have for somebody just now thinking, hey, I need some help?
It sounds like you just got to stay persistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. I think, I imagine, I hope that things are an awful lot easier now than they were at the end of March, when I and several other people were starting to try to navigate this process. I think it's a lot more straightforward and a lot easier to reach people and to get on the TWC website in the first place. And but I can't imagine that it's a perfect process. And I would second that statement, to be persistent and diligent and just keep after it. You may run into some roadblocks, things may not be clear, but just keep trying and try to find some contact for something, whether it be a state senator or some phone number that you can get or an email address to find somebody who can help you.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Russell, do you think? Forgive me if I'm stepping out here, but do you think there's some similarities between this and like the Veterans Administration in that they're just a massive bureaucracy that you have to have persistence and patience to get through?
Oh, I think they run hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, you call the VA, you get this person, this person, this person. Finally you just show up. And they just, well, we don't have anybody. Well, I'll just wait. But it's just persistence. I mean, because people got to remember, it's not a handout. This is your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Yeah. And any thoughts on that, Jonathan or Tracy?
I would just second what these guys have already said. Make sure you get that application in right away. They backdate it only to the date where you first file your application. So, if it takes a few weeks for you to first get your benefits, the day you first filed the application is the day they backdate it to, not any further.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting. When I was speaking with the first man from PwC, I had filed March 24th. And he said that with my 1099s, he would backdate it to March 15th under the PUA assistance. I haven't seen it come through yet. I'm going to give it a call this week because following up is the best way to go, of course. But that's what I'm hoping.
That's good.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. So just follow the advice of the professionals and, make sure you're following up and checking with the people who know.
Yeah, and keep checking that correspondence inbox, right? The electronic correspondence inbox. Has anyone gotten any indication that something is in that box? Because I still have never received any indication that they're putting anything in there, and I just check periodically, and there's new stuff.
I do. I receive emails every time something goes in.
Oh, that's cool. I think that's what's supposed to happen. Yeah.
I mean, I check it pretty much every day, but I don't get any emails.
I think it might go to my spam. I think I've gotten one before, and I haven't recently.
Man. All right. Well, we do have a question from the chat room here. It's our friend Teddy. He said, "Do you know if you are claiming some income, if that will cut into the $600 CARES Act benefits?"
It cuts in a little bit, but it hasn't been as much as I expected to.
Oh, so you've actually reported income and
Yep.
had it reduce that?
Right. It reduced it some, but I still got the benefit was a lot more than I expected it to. As long as it's under whatever number they determine is your, I think it's 75% or 80% or somewhere in that range of your benefit. What do they call that? The PUA or the allotment. If it's under it, they'll still give you some benefits. So, and in my case, I've been surprised pleasantly by what I've still received on the weeks I've declared some income.
But I think the point is that if you report income in any one of your own weeks, it will reduce your benefit. That's, I think, how that stuff works. So, I mean, obviously, you have to report income if you earned income, but when you do so, you got to expect that your total is going to go down for that claim week.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Kaz. Yeah, but I don't think that's always a bad thing because as Jonathan was saying earlier, there is a finite amount for the year, So if you don't use that for 1 week where you get income, then you can use that towards the end of the year when those benefits might run out. But of course, if some of the benefits are extended, maybe we won't have to worry about that. Yeah, because we just don't know. Any other thoughts on Teddy's question? All right.
I have another thought about that. I didn't think that the $600, I thought you were getting the $600 add-on if you were collecting unemployment. And I didn't think that the amount that you were given for unemployment changed the $600. So in other words, I think that was what Teddy was asking, is that if you're receiving some amount for unemployment, then you will get the $600. Isn't that true?
That's what I thought as well. But Jonathan, you got an indication where the $600 itself was reduced, or was it the other payment that is under the $600?
Maybe it was. Yeah, that's a tricky question.
It is.
I'm not sure which part was reduced. I guess that would just kind of get into the details of your own situation, I think. But week to week. So
yeah.
I don't know.
We can leave it at that. Your mileage may vary. We do not work for the TWC. All we can do is share our experience, and God bless us everyone. Yeah. Yeah. So Teddy followed up and came to the same question that we did. He wanted to know if he assumed that the initial qualifying benefit would get cut, but was curious about it touching the $600, and we don't really know based on our experience with this exact committee.
Well, I mean, my experience was very specific on that issue.
Yeah.
Did receive a certain amount plus the $600, and then in 1 week, I reported a small amount of income that I had earned, and that reduced the employment benefit, but it did not reduce the $600 payment.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Cool.
Experience.
Thank you for that, Cass. Yeah, that is helpful for sure. Yeah. And that's the way that they start us out as contractors. It's kind of all on that same amount. That it's like $219 or something like that, and then you send in your tax information, and they see if they can make it bigger or not. But so for all of us, it kind of starts with that set amount, and then the $600 on top of it. So it might be easier for us to track that than it is for Jonathan with the W-2 income, potentially. But Teddy, your mileage may vary. But thank you for conversing with us about this, because I think a lot of people have questions about that, and we'll continue to have questions. So, yeah, man, we're getting towards the end of the discussion. I've got a few more things to bring up. Do any of you guys have anything that you want to definitely fit in this week that you were thinking about? Yeah, that's all right. Let's continue on for another few minutes, and then we'll sign off here. Let's see. What is the most common misconception about UI benefits that you have heard from musicians? What's the thing that's that you find is in need of correction with the way musicians are thinking about this? Because a lot of us are very confused about it, because a lot of us never qualified for it before, and it's changed so much during this pandemic that there's a lot of strange things flying around. What do you think? What's the most common for you that you hear people talk about?
I would say for me, it's not understanding what a payment request is.
Oh yeah.
And because to me, I looked at a payment request as basically reporting your income.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure, as long as you're honest on that income report of the payment request, you should be in the clear to just continuously make those quote unquote payment requests. So that's my personal experience.
Yeah, I was totally confused about that. Yeah, absolutely. What do the rest of y'all think?
But most guys that I know just don't know this is available.
Oh yeah. Yeah, why do they think that, Russell? Why do you think that is still out there?
It just seems like we've been told so long that we're not essential that we don't think that we qualify for those type benefits, or they don't seem like they want to go ahead and challenge the system. But once you kind of educate, look, this is what you got, this is what you can get this. But most of them just don't know that. Try.
Yeah.
Because there are certain reasons that you don't want to do it. Because if you have like back child support or something like that, that comes off the top.
Oh yeah.
So whatever you thought you were going to get, whatever you owe, that comes off the top.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's a unique situation. Absolutely. Yeah, and something to be concerned about for sure. Yeah, I mean, musicians have been pretty vulnerable in a lot of ways economically before this pandemic, and we're still seeing the the problems associated with that. Yeah, absolutely, man. What do you think, Kaz and Tracy? What do you think about the misconceptions that you've heard?
Well, I'd say probably people being confused about what their status is. In other words, are they self-employed? Are they an independent contractor? Are they a wage earner? I mean, I think some people, and myself included, I'm not sure that it's always been clear to me or to people that I know what their status actually is, I mean, are you a self-employed person? Do you have to have a business to be a self-employed person? If you're an independent contractor, can you still be self-employed? I think there's a lot of people who are confused about that, and so they're a little reluctant to start the process because they're not exactly sure how to identify themselves.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I have heard you use that word wage earner the last couple of weeks. Have you encountered that term on some of the forums?
No, not necessarily,
Okay.
but I know when I decided to try to do a PPP loan, which I have since decided not to do, but when I was in the first stages of that, there were several parts of that document that kind of forced me to identify myself as a certain thing, a certain entity. And the one that seemed to work for that form was sole proprietor, which is a whole nother one on top of, contractor, wage earner, self-employed, It's very confusing. And I don't think there's a simple way to understand that. The thing that sort of clarified it in my mind was, well, in the eyes of the U.S. government, if you file a Schedule C, you are self-employed, right? And so that kind of made me think, okay, whenever this question comes up, I'm going to consider myself self-employed. But it doesn't necessarily clarify it with relationship to the TWC. But anyway, I think some musicians that I know continue to be confused about that issue, and I think justifiably so. And so they're a little reluctant to navigate the TWC website because of that.
Well said. Yeah, I think that's right. I think we've just got just a few seconds left. So did you have anything on that, Tracy?
No, I think Kaz covered it pretty well.
Yeah, well spoken. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll kind of wrap it up here. This has been Navigating the TWC for musicians for May 15th. I did it again. May 15th, 2020. And thank you all for joining us and for speaking with us on this. And I think we're going to do this again next Friday at 1. So please join us. We have no idea what the news could be by then. So have a good day and stay in music for the love of God. Bye-bye.